Hello everyone. I wish each one of you a very lovely, beautiful, knowledgeable, pleasant afternoon. You don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and by falling over. One more time, you don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and by falling over. A famous quotation given by Richard Branson is the CEO and founder of Virgin Brand. With this beautiful saying, I, Professor Mishra, now moderator of today's session, would like to welcome you all to the induction program of our 22nd batch of the PGDM. So before we get started, I would like to brief you about the flow of the session. This session will be of the HR, senior HR's panel discussion will be of 2 hours and 15 minutes, in which first 15 minutes is for introduction, next 1 hour and 30 minutes is for the discussion, and the rest 30 minutes will be for the question and answers. You can type your questions in the chat box and that will be addressed at the end of the session. So now I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. So I will start with Ms. Swati Prasanna, a branch HR manager at Nestle India Limited. Ms. Prasanna has started her career with TCS as system engineer in year 2011. Then she moved to the HR function in year 2016 with Cipla India Limited. Now she is working with Nestle India Limited as branch human resource manager. She is a persona and we are glad to welcome her today as our esteemed panelist member. Now I am moving towards our next second guest, Ms. Sasmita Mishra, the manager HR of Modular Group. Ms. Mishra is having successful track record of partnering with business in various roles across engineering, FMCG, pharma, and IT industries. She has acquired a wide variety of critical experience, including change management, developing and nurturing high-performance team, talent acquisition, business partnering, and employee relations. She believed that engaged workforce can bring their best, which is a differentiator to the organization. She has built culture of coaching and mentoring in the organization. I welcome Ms. Mishra also as our esteemed panel member. Now I move towards our next esteemed guest, Mr. VijaySingh, the Chief of Human Resource of IIEBM Limited, which is formerly known as Dabur IIEBM. Mr. Singh has started his professional journey in the year 2005 with HCL Technologies. He had worked with Spice Telecom and Kotak Mahindra Bank as well in the position of Assistant Manager, HR and Assistant Vice President HR respectively. Mr. Singh has joined IIEBM Limited in the year 2015 and he is working at capacity of Chief of Human Resource and Strategic Business Administrator. Mr. Singh has been facilitated with Influential HR Leadership Award by a Chief Governor of Punjab and ASSOCHAM. He is also recognized as Top 100 Leaders of India for last 3 consecutive years for World HRD Congress and CHRO Asian. He is also the persona and I am glad to welcome him also in the group. So all the 3 panelists are here with me. So let's start the session. I would like one open question to all of you. Ma'am, as we all know that nowadays FMCG is the first choice, or we can say it is something which all the management students want to join. So if we put some light on it, what is actually the FMCG sector and why it is the first choice of management students? So any one of you can answer this question. What is FMCG sector and why it is the first choice for the management students?
Okay. Good afternoon, Professor Mishra. At the outset, I would like to thank you and the management of Indus Business School for bringing us to this platform and giving us an opportunity to interact with the future leaders who are going to take up the corporate world in time to come. Now, I wanted to start the conversation with the question that you have raised, that FMCG, if we talk about, so as a first choice, why the management students would like to look for it. So FMCG, when we talk about the fast-moving consumer goods sector, this happens to be the fourth largest sector of the country, which gives an employment opportunity to more than 3 million people. So if we look at the depth and the volume in terms of the opportunity, so this is significant. And I see that. So in a country like India, wherein we are 130 crore population, so it is all about a volume. It is all about a demand and supply. So if we talk about the demand from a customer's perspective, so FMCG is something that is a fast-moving item. It is something that you really don't have to think much before you step into any kind of purchases. Coming from the family of Dabur India, because we started our journey as Dabur Ayurved Limited. Dabur is into the human pharma, so I manage the HR space for the veterinary segment. So a lot of shift we have seen in the last 1.5 years as far as the herbal segment is concerned. So there has been a complete transformation post-COVID. So the world has actually transformed in terms of the choices and the likings. So I personally feel that there is a lot that is yet to be explored, that is yet to be evolved and transformed, and it is going to be visible to us in time to come. So for all the management students, I see a lot of future opportunity that lies in the FMCG sector.
That's great, sir. So, if anything that would like to add by Swati or Ms. Sasmita, so that is also welcome.
Yeah, I would like to add. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in addition to that, I would like to add. It is characterized, the FMCG sector is totally characterized by the high turnover consumer packaged goods. Like that is goods that are produced, distributed, marketed, and consumed within a short span of time. So it is emerged as an industry of choice for managing graduates. According to a survey, 44% of students graduating in recent years that they have voted for the FMCG sector as their most preferred industry. And FMCG also tops the industry of future list. And as Mr. From Dabur India, that he told very nicely that it is as per the growing demand and the attractive opportunities as well as the policies are supported by the Union Cabinet as well as the Union Government, and in the last thing to add in this.
Yeah.
So I would like to also just add a couple of points to that. Again, looking at industry like who is getting out of campus, but in terms of brand connect, you will see much more FMCG brands very, very close to every consumer, and brands like any of your Dabur products or any of our products like Maggi, KitKat, which are billion-dollar brands in themselves. Even if the consumer might not know Nestle as the organization, they know the brand. So that is very, very lucrative for anybody who will want to join or be associated with a brand like this. And second, I think most recently, even in the pandemic, with the kind of growth that FMCG has shown, and it has shown that it is a pandemic-proof sort of an industry when it comes to demand. That is also a reason why I think FMCG is very, very lucrative going on.
That's I feel the data, ma'am, you have shared is really worthwhile, because during the pandemic, the thing which is required most is actually the FMCG products, because it comes under the basic needs. So everybody, they need the basic things as compared to the luxuries. So yes, so here in that scenario also the FMCG survived and boomed in pandemic as well. That is the great. So coming forward, the next question is how much we can say the FMCG sector, their mode of operation, their marketing operations, their way of hiring the people, that has been changed in last 5 years. So if you can throw some light on this.
And it is based on the growing awareness, easier access, and the changing lifestyles that individuals having, and the key growth drivers for the sector as well. And the urban segments like accounts for the revenue share, which is around I think 55%. which is the largest contributor for the overall revenue generated by the FMCG sector in India. However, in the last few years, the FMCG market has grown at a faster pace in rural India compared to urban India. And why it happened? So my prediction, if you ask for the FMCG, that will grow in a rapid pace and down the line. And the packaged food in market in India, that is expected to be double in $70 billion by 2025. That is as per the market data that I am seeing. And the Indian processed food market is projected to expand around $470 billion by 2025. And that to be from $263 billion in 1920 to be growth rate up to the $470 billion. And second, the investment approval of up to 100% foreign activity that invested in the single brand retail and 50% in multi-brand retail. And as you know that the Union government also products a linked incentive scheme that gives companies a major opportunity to boost the exports. And also our Union Cabinet Minister that approved the PLI scheme for the food processing industry. So it will also boost the investment to the large and medium scale industries. And as for the investment in this sector attracts investors as FMCG products have demand throughout the year because it is a fast moving product. So the sector witnessed a healthy FDI inflow. The inflow, if you see, it seems to be very healthy.
So to add to what Ms. Mishra has already said, I'll answer this question in two parts. I'm assuming the question is also two parts. The first is how is the industry shaping up? So, which Ms. Mishra very correctly said that there is also now a mix of multi-brand retail happening. We as recently as a month ago see Amazon, Reliance, all of them fighting for a market share, and FMCG products are going to be a bulk of whatever sort of a mega city, hyper city, whatever sort of a model comes up. FMCG products are going to claim a chunk of that volume. So in terms of volume play, whether it moves from say a small grocery channel to a large, a more retail oriented channel, but still even the channel mix might shift a bit, but the demand is going to continue to remain. So that is going to be very, very optimistic for FMCG. When it comes to the mode of sales, like I said, we might have a channel shift, whether people move from a brick and mortar to a click and mortar to sort of an e-commerce sort of a spread. So that will also change for us the kind of people that we need to hire. To Town Class 3 penetration into rural, which is becoming much more increasingly apparent in the past 4 to 5 years. So people will have to assume that the state of growth will be in one of these places, not in metros. So people who we look to hire will have to be locally customized, locally adapted very easily, and also increasingly want to move to one of these areas if you want faster growth in your careers, because this is where we will sort of start deploying people. Rural is the new buzzword that we are looking at in the industry.
Okay, Ms. Swati, that's great. So, as we have discussed that in the rural market, the FMCG has increased their penetration, FMCG companies, and now they are giving good result as well. So, would like to have some idea about the impact of digitalization on that FMCG penetration to everywhere, because what we feel from 2014 when our entire country has moved or has taken one step forward towards the digitalization and they started using purchasing online the products. Earlier it was purchasing the electronic equipments more as compared to the FMCG, but now as the more consumers are using that digital platform means e-commerce platform to purchase the FMCG products as well. So what is the impact of that e-commerce platform and digitalization on the FMCG? Sir, your mic is mute.
I will share my views, Professor Mishra. So prior to that, a few points that I would like to add in terms of the trend that we have witnessed in last 5 years, and what is the kind of scope that we look for the FMCG sector in next 5 to 10 years to come. And with respect to what my co-panelists have shared, a few important facts that I would like to highlight. Yes, it is very right that we have observed a positive trend that has developed, especially on the rural segment, here an important point that needs to be observed is the awareness. So with the kind of technology that is now available at the fingertips of one and all, so the quantum of awareness and the knowledge base is much higher in comparison to possibly what we used to observe a decade ago. So now even you will find FMCG products that are available, and also if you look at the kind of increase in the per capita income, so that is one of the factor that has contributed significantly towards building up the FMCG sector. And also when we talk about the availability of disposable income, so the disposable income and the per capita income, when we talk about, so that has given a power for the consumers to actually choose between a need and a want. So when we talk about water, so it's a normal tap water or a distilled water. So there is an availability of the choice that is resting now on the customer. And as I said earlier, that we have seen a complete transformation in terms of how things have shaped up post-COVID. And as a country now, when we target to make India a 5 trillion economy, so I think there is a lot of volume that rests on the FMCG industry, and we would surely be seeing a lot of action or ride happening in the next 5 years. So this is my thought. So I will share an interesting fact, and my co-panelists will agree with me. Like Ms. Prasanna was sharing that during the time of COVID, how the FMCG industry has flourished and has been able to kind of an immunity from the COVID impact. So when we talk about the FMCG per se, now if I talk about the parent company Dabur for that matter, so during the pandemic time, the companies that have actually been able to survive, sustain and grow has been on the fundamental of forecasting, planning and availability of goods. So when we were talking about the lockdown, so lockdown was from a country perspective to ensure that all the citizens are safe and sound. But at the same time, the basic amenities in terms of the fresh foods or the processed foods, so all this item had to be made readily available. So it was all about forecasting the supply chain and ensuring that the products are available on the counter and in every household. So this is the kind of shift that we are looking at in next 5 to 10 years to come. And this will further give a setting tone to your next question that you were talking on the digitization.
Okay, that's great, sir. That's really great. So anything that our remaining panelists would like to put some light on this or add some point on this?
So if I talk about digitalization, what has happened, at least increasingly in the past 2 years, is that from a process standpoint, the organizations have also had the need to become much more digitalized. Since people were not going to be any which ways present physically in the market or in the offices, a lot of our processes moved on from, say, I'll meet with you, I'll interact with you, and I'll propose the product to you. Then we had to adapt quickly, and we did adapt quickly. The next thing that also helps us is that there were a lot of customers, not just in metros, but in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, who were now accessing ordering stuff from Amazon, from, say, any of the portals which were available for FMCG. Dunzo, I'm assuming, is much more of a metro thing, but still, any of these portals were being utilized to bulk order goods. There were companies like Flipkart, which were now moving into groceries. So all of these were accessible to the tier 3, tier 4 towns also. And we could leverage on their distribution platform to send out to use for our sales. So which was good for us. The only important impact for us was that we now had to be increasingly conscious of geographical and geo-cluster marketing also. My product cannot just now be marketed in an English language or a Hindi TVC. I need it to be marketed in Gujarati, I need it to be marketed in Marathi, in Bundelkhandi, I need it to customize to the local dialects as well. I cannot just now give a pan-India metro sort of a vibe in all of my products. That also, since the reach has increased, my customization of my advertisement also has to be digital and reach that fast. My communication on my platform, if I have a consumer complaints portal, if I have any sort of portal which is accessible to the customer, that also cannot be in English and Hindi. It is not going to need to be.
Okay. That's great. Really great, Ms. Swati, that you have given the clear idea that yes, via in digitalization also we need to see who is our customer and how can we reach there. So we have to take care of the languages, their preferences, how can we project our product to them. So that's really great. Now coming to the student side, that as I mentioned, that students need, that is the dream for a student to join the FMCG sector, start the career with FMCG sector. So what are actually the skill set, being a HR professional, what are actually the skill set that you are looking in the students from the management background, and that you offer that job to the management students? So this is an open question to everyone, and I request everybody to answer this one by one, because this is the something which my all students would like to know. Yes, sir. So what are actually the skill set that you need to have the students, the PGDM fresh students? Yes.
Quite an interesting question, because as an HR person now, conducting the interviews across roles, grades, functions. So I have also learned from the experience over the last 2 decades now. So firstly, we need to acknowledge the fact that we are living in a VUCA world, so which is full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguities. So VUCA as a concept, this was termed sometime in mid-90s by the US Army. So now when we talk about today's world, this is actually what we are witnessing as a VUCA world, that nothing is permanent. So what we form as a strategy, what we think is possibly going to be good for the current time, but this might not be successful after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So this is what we call as change. So now when we talk about, there is no straight line approach in terms of what exactly are we looking from the management students when we aim at hiring them for the corporate. So there is no hard-coded thought process that goes behind the selection of the profile. But I firmly believe that no two individuals are the same, be it about their strengths, be it about the weakness, or be it about the areas of development. We are here talking about the management students who are going to be the future of the country, future of the industry. So whenever a candidate is to be selected, so the first thought that goes in our mind is looking at a skill and a competence. So from a management point of view, you representing the academic section. So there is a very thin line difference. So every possible way we use these terms, skill, and he is known as the god of cricket. Now, when we talk about a competence is a slightly more complex terminology. Competence is a combination of your skills, knowledge, and attitude. So when we look at hiring a management student for a corporate, so it is not only for a job role or a function, it is ultimately what we foresee that this person is going to be the future of the corporate, and also a custodian and a reflector of the cultural image of the organization. So they are more than the skill, it is the competence that we look at. And apart from that, I personally feel that there has to be a fire in the belly. So when I say fire in the belly, there has to be a desire to scale up, to excel, to grow. And mere academic knowledge, of course, the academic knowledge is something that is going to lay a strong foundation in terms of whatever you have assimilated over the past 15 years of your academic track record. So that is going to give you a base, a confidence. But when you put that knowledge into the practical implementation, things are very different. And the situation is very dynamic. So you need to be agile. You need to be involved thoroughly in terms of whatever you take up. So there, from a career perspective, I would like to share that your career option or your profession should not be by choice. It should not be by chance. Rather, it should be by choice. Because this is something that you cannot really take a U-turn unless you are really willing to take that plunge, and then you are very inclined to take a shift in your profession. So these are few of the takes in terms of what exactly we look from a person when we are hiring them. Because business is not all about profitability; it is all about what you gain from the society, you return it back. So the human factor is something that is more important, because ultimately life is all about what we share. So sharing is caring is the concept that we believe in.
So that's thank you, Mr. Pratap Singh sir. Actually, I realized that I asked very general question. I have to be very precise. So we got really the very good answer, but I should be very precise. So I mold my question. So what are the skill set you are looking for to hire the marketing student of PGDM? So now the question is specific, because the answer you have given, that is the common answer for, we can say this is applicable to all the branches. But to be more precise, I'm asking this for the marketing student, then we will move towards the finance and then towards the HR. So if Madam Prasanna would like to answer this, that would be great, because I feel ma'am want to. Yes, Ms. Prasanna.
Okay. So if we are specifically looking to answer the kind of competence that I'm looking at a marketing student, first of all, marketing is something that I will not be giving to somebody who hasn't had a marketing experience. You need to first test your mettle out in sales and look to understand that any role, any FMCG company which is going to offer you a role is only going to offer you a role in a sales profile. So what I'm looking to hire for in a sales profile is somebody who can be molded across in any territory, somebody who is geographically mobile. This is something that I would like to underline again. You, in a good marketing or a sales sort of a profile, a person needs to be geographically mobile across. Second, they need to be adaptable, because you'll be thrown across any of the geographies. You might not have to push numbers, but adhering to a certain standard operating process that a company would have, a standard compliance that the company would expect you to follow. So while I will definitely appreciate somebody who thinks out of the box, but a basic sense of compliance should be there. Thinking out of the box at the cost of the rules is not going to be accommodated across any FMCG company. And I think last but not the least, don't try and pretend to be somebody else in an interview. Most of us, I'm sure Mr. Singh and Ms. Mishra have seen many people across who express interest. It is very easily obvious in the interview. So be truthful, be honest, and stick to understand the profile that you're applying to very well. And if it fits you, do give it your best.
Okay, that's great. So, Ms. Mishra, you would like to add some points in the same question?
I saw in your flyer that you mentioned that student for 2 years, leader for life. So, it's very rightly that you mentioned. So, the skills, rather than the technical skills, what are the skills that we expect from students? That is to be agile, and to be very adaptable. Whatever the scenario that they have put under the situation, so they have to accept the things very quickly, and they have to change themselves accordingly, because situation will not change and other people will not change. So they have to change by themselves. The change management is very, very important to grow and to get the job quickly.
Okay, that's it.
And may I add a few points to what my co-panelists have shared? So, Ms. Prasanna very rightly pointed out on a few of the important aspects. So, now your question, which was specific to marketing. So, from a marketing point of view, I would say that the times have really changed. We are in a fast-paced world and a fast-paced growing economy. So, the conventional mode of marketing, the traditional mode of marketing has actually taken a backseat. Now, the new concept for the management startups, they are really focusing on such platforms wherein the digital marketing space can be occupied and the mileage can be taken. And in particular, when I talk about the FMCG, what we were highlighting in how do we see this sector growing in next 5 to 10 years, apart from the sector itself taking a momentous growth. There is a lot of intervention that is coming from the government. So the agricultural reforms, when we talk about, so the processed food industry is something that is going to further give a push to the FMCG sector. So a lot of marketing initiatives, both a combination of the digital space and the traditional marketing is going to be is something that would surely see a lot of opportunity for the marketing professionals. And yes, it would surely start from knowing your ground. So that will come from the demographic experience, and as long as you don't shed sweat on the ground in terms of understanding what is the sales all about, what are the needs of the customer, till then you won't be really able to draft out the marketing strategy for the organization. So this is what I feel.
Okay, that's great, sir. So now the question is with Ms. Mishra. That is, what challenges actually you face being an HR profession to have the fresh management students? I mean, because we have the different type of students with different skill set and that are available all over India. So what are actually the challenges that one company is facing to have the brilliant brains, we can say the sharp brain for the company? So what are actually that challenges?
Yes. When you will ask me for challenges, yes, I do face challenges of desired skill set, required by the company, which is actually are not available in the market. So people, used to say that, there are no jobs. And if you see the poverty line of India, that also is been reduced in a very high range. So we do have openings, but we actually don't find the desired skill set that required for the specific positions.
So, Ms. Mishra, can you please highlight some skills that's actually we are looking for the students? So, what are actually that skills that would be helpful to the educational institute also? So, can you please throw some light on that skill that is not available?
See, all the technical competencies is, my co-panelists clearly told that they have to express themselves, they have to be out of box thinking, they have to be very, very innovative while approaching. If I ask you some questions, then
sir, because as we have during your introduction, we have mentioned that you have received some awards also from the government of India and from some good organizations. So my student would like to know more about you and about your journey, how you, your journey till time, and what is your advice to all the students. So yes, Mr. Vijay.
Quite an interesting question, and makes me nostalgic because at the same time it will be really difficult to condense the experience of last 2 decades, the fantastic 2 decades that I have been part of the corporate world. So starting from the IT industry, from the college, getting an opportunity with HCL Technologies, then moving to Spice Telecom, then very rewarding career with ING Vesya Bank, erstwhile Kotak Mahindra Bank, wherein I was managing the retail banking space and the commercial banking space. Now part of the manufacturing industry and that to the pharma division, the herbal space of Ayurved, Dabur Ayurved, which is into the veterinary segment. So it has been a very fantastic and a very interesting journey that ways, and I personally would like to thank God and the Almighty and my parents and all the leaders who have helped me shape up my career, starting from the day when I stepped into this corporate sector and where I am today. And I humbly represent my organization Ayurved Limited and the HR fraternity. So it has been a very interesting journey of success, failures, learnings, and what has been the key takeaway from this experience. I personally feel are 2 things. One is the thought process that I have always carried, and I wish to continue to carry forward in terms of the learning process. So I personally feel that I am still a student every day from this forum. When I'm interacting with my co-panelists, I'm sure that I will end up the sessions with great degree of learning from my co-panelists and their experience and Professor Mishra himself. So learning is a process wherein we have to actually learn, unlearn, and relearn. So we cannot be hard-coded on the fact that I know everything. So even when we talk about the kind of struggle the students have to go through in terms of preparing for their semesters, their annual examinations. So whatever we learn throughout the journey is an experience, and to learn anything disciplined in your approach, in your way, in your actions, in your thought process, I don't think by any means there is anything in this world which is unachievable, unattainable. So discipline and learning, these are the two important aspects that has actually helped me to reach to a platform wherein I have been given this opportunity to interact with all of you and share my knowledge and experience.
That's so nice of you, Mr. Vijay. The same question is with Ms. Sasmita Mishra also, because she has 13 years of experience, and a student would like to know about her journey and about her experience and her learning during that 13 years of journey. Yes, Ms. Mishra.
Okay. So, learning, it never stops. When you ask that how to receive the success or how to reach the desired place, then you have to continuously learn it, relearn it, and unlearn it. It is a continuous process, and in every aspect, from everything, you have to take some learnings. That what would be my takeaway from this? That could be from a very minor to minor things. On everything that you are facing in your day-to-day life, from there also you can learn. So it is up to you that how continuously you are putting effort on your learning, on your success. What's your short-term career goals? What's your long-term career goals? As an individual, we must have our career goals. That within 5 years down the line, that I have to reach on that place. So for that, what are the actions that I am taking? So for that, you have to plan yourself. So first, I can say, based on my journey, my experience, then first plan it, then act on it. It should be the PDCA cycle. Plan, do, check, act. So then only will be able to get your success.
That's great. And now the same question is with Ms. Swati. She started her career in the year 2011 and applied with other companies and now with Nestle. Nestle, I believe, the world's biggest multinational organization is started with Switzerland. So, yeah.
So, I think for me, I would say that one thing which specifically I've learned much more from my MBA, which I did from IIEBM than from my engineering, would be that a lot of your learning will happen outside the classroom. It is not just going to be theory. When you interact with your peers, when you interact for group projects, when you interact for assignments, when you listen, when you talk, when you build something together in group projects, in say case studies and all of that. That is where you'll pick up and imbibe much more of knowledge. Similarly, your learning doesn't stop as soon as you get the job. You will always have to continuously upskill and reskill yourself. What technology, what skill was relevant when I was doing my MBA? For example, if I was doing something like an SPSS or an R, might be very, very soon outdated in the next 4 to 5 years. So you have to continuously upskill yourself because the industry is good. You can enroll into courses that your organizations will offer. But learning should not stop. And something which both Ms. Mishra and Mr. Singh before me have said, you will constantly have to learn, upskill, and build. It is not going to stop just because you have joined the company and you have landed a role that you would want to get.
Okay, that's great. We have received one question from one student named Diksha Gaigwad, and she asked this question to everyone. That she said, I have read that the growth rate in FMCG industry has decreased from 13% in last year to 6% in pandemic year. So is it true that the pandemic has affected the FMCG industries? If it's true, then in what way it has been affected the industry?
Okay, I would like to pick up that question, and it is good to see that the students are very well informed in terms of the data specs. So thank you for raising that question, and I would answer that from the point of view what my co-panelists have earlier shared. I think Ms. Sasmita, she shared this point. This is not a downward trend that we are observing in specific as far as the FMCG industry is concerned. If we look at the growth rate or the rate of the GDP, so it has got impacted as an economy itself. We have got impacted on account of the COVID and the nationwide lockdown. But the interesting fact that is emerging in terms of the data dissection, if I have to talk about, so around 50% of the FMCG contribution in terms of the top line comes from the urban sector, and 45% is from the semi-urban and the rural sector. And typically, the rural sector is pacing up in terms of its growth rate. This is one. Second, in next 5 years, this is the Nielsen data that has been made available, and it is accessible to one and all on Google. So whenever Diksha you get time, kindly refer to it. The growth rate projected and from local to vocal and from vocal to global. So that is the anthem that we are at, and for sure, next 5 years, 2025 years is going to be a great year for the country.
Oh, that's really great, and that's really the good piece of information you have shared. I feel Diksha is now satisfied with the answer. She replied that sure, sir. So
all the best.
So now there is one more question in the chat box, that is, being an finance students, what are the job opportunities for us? So, being a finance student, what are all the job opportunities in FMCG industries? That is the another question from the student side. So, anyone can answer this question?
Yeah.
Please, Ms. Prasanna, go ahead.
Okay, great. So, a finance student is going to be very, very important in any FMCG setup, because you will be involved very, very closely in the costing process and the overall pricing process. And even when you have sales, so there are certain compliances which I was referring to earlier. Those compliances are managed, processed, and also governed across most of the organizations in the finance team. There are specializations in audit, in risk management, which are going to be increasingly sought from the finance team. Additionally, the procurement and costing part of it, when it comes to marginal costing of your procurement of resources, when you will have your factories to set up, when you have larger costs which will come up. Finance is a core competency which will be needed in any of these planning processes, in any of these growth processes. I think finance is one of the most lucrative options that people can look for in FMCG. Absolutely, why not?
Oh, that's great. I feel that information will be
sustainability and the success of the organization. Now, finance as a department is not restricted only to the FMCG. It is across the industries when we talk about. So, any role or any function for that matter, be it finance, be it marketing, be it HR, be it supply chain, in today's corporate environment, it is all about economic value add. This is the term EVA, economic value add. So as an HR person, my job is not a mundane, functional, transactional work in terms of payroll processing, attendance and all that. It has gone much beyond. What is the kind of economic contribution that I bring to the table is where my work gets recognized. So that's where when we talk about finance, like most of the points has already been shared by Ms. Prasanna. So budgeting, when we talk about the budget planning or we talk about the expansion, we talk about merger and acquisition. So there is a whole lot of action that lies as far as the finance stream is concerned. So to all those people who aspire to take up finance as their specialization, so all the best. There is great opportunity waiting for you.
Well, that's great, sir. There is one more question. That is, what are the skills required for the HR student to work in FMCG sector? So now this is one question which is very much close to all of the panelists. So what are the skills required for the HR students to make their career in FMCG sector? So who would like to?
I'll take that. So now HR is playing a bigger role in the organization, and now it is not under the function of personnel and administration. HR is playing a partnering. It's playing a bigger contribution to the business of the organization. So more that I would like to say, like students should focus on the sustainability part, the customer experience part, and the consumer intelligence solutions, also the digitalization and the e-commerce part, so that they can indulge more into the business, into the processes, and also the data intelligence part, like the big data analytics, the artificial intelligence and all, so that they can service more and more.
Terminology, it is all about human relations. So when we talk about human relation, it is not only about the human touch or the employee welfare schemes that we have. It has gone much beyond that in terms of organizational growth. So HR is an essential part of the organizational success that is now defined in today's world, and there is a Harvard Business Review that talks about the 3 C's that makes the successful organization. So those 3 C's will be the CFO, the CEO, and the CHRO. So HR plays a very interesting and a very critical role in defining the success of the organization. So HR for the management students, where they aim or they aspire to begin their career in the human relation field. It is all about the strategic HR. So rightly pointed out by Ms. Sasmita that it is an partnering role. So as an HR person, as long as I don't understand what is my business, what is the depth and the core of my business, it is practically impossible for me to have a round of dialogue in terms of the strategic thought process or the business design with my business leaders. So there, I need to have a thorough understanding of what are the nuances of business, what are the pain points, what are the challenges, and that is where I will be able to bring some solution to the table in terms of how to make it better. So this is the kind of expectation that I would hold from people who aspire to be part of the HR, and I will be more than happy to welcome the new HR professionals in my team so that collectively, whatever we have learned, that can be shared and cascaded to the newcomers.
That's great, sir. So I feel Angela does got the answer.
So if I may add just one more point, apologies for that, Professor. One increasingly important point that is going to be expected of any HR professional is to understand the business as well. You are not going to be able to work cut out of the business. So whichever company, whichever sector you join, you will have to understand what, second from your end is the effort to understand what the business is expecting. You will know the business as well.
That's really the great points you have added, Ms. Prasanna. Now we have one more question. That is from the student named Shyam Sundar Saha. She asked that what are the job roles as a data analyst or data scientist in FMCG sector?
So if I may take that, for us, and I'm sorry I'm speaking in a very limited ability because I've not worked across any other FMCG organization other than where I do. A data analytics or a data analyst is more often than not involved in some sort of an info desk sort of role, which would be giving me a compilation of, say, a comparative data, what my company is doing, what is the data on ground for peers, what is the number of sales booked, so that I can also start pushing and planning my strategies accordingly. So any role for a data scientist or a data, I'm not talking about data science, a data analyst is mostly going to be involved in some sort of a decision supporting. That is where I see somebody getting involved in, say, the marketing research team or a marketing intelligence team, or say when you're planning something. So when you need that sort of a data support numbers to be crunched. So any decision support sort of a role is where I'll be looking to hire a data analyst. I'm sorry, in my limited understanding, data science profiles don't seem very viable in a country. It would be much more suited in the core IT.
Yes.
I would like to compliment Ms. Prasanna on what she shared, and I would like to further add and build up on the thoughts that she has shared. So when we talk about the data or the big data or data analytics for that matter, now the time has changed. Time has changed in the sense that when we say that necessity is the mother of all inventions. So we had never visualized a world or a cyber world that we are sitting in. Today we are having these live interactions, some around being emotionally concerned by the loss of any of the loved ones, friends, relatives. So it has deeply impacted. At the same time, if I look at the positive side of it, it's a kind of a blessing in disguise, because it actually made us transform and evolve in terms of what are the abilities that we have in terms of adapting to the IT skills. Earlier, if we talk about 2 years back, having these virtual meetings was almost like a dream. It was a kind of a headache that how come the virtual meetings will be successful, but today it is the need of the hour. You can't really survive. So when we talk about the data in the earlier discussion, when I was talking about the awareness, so today business success is all about data. Today the businesses run on data, and the businesses who are going to survive and grow at a much faster pace, be it your FMCG, be it your healthcare, be it your manufacturing, any industry that you talk about, it is going to be based on the data. So the business houses that have a sound control or access to the data are going to be the winners, are going to be the king. Ultimately, if we talk about, so data is what? Data is all about a real-time tracking of the customer experience. So we are in a customer service industry. So if you do any kind of purchase, or if you call for any after-sales service, you are given a happiness code that you need to give to the service engineer. What is that? Is that really required? It is a way of connecting with the customers and creating a database or a data pool that is going to be further used for the enhancement of business, or for upskilling, upselling, or coming out with any kind of promotional marketing inputs. So data per se, I personally feel, is going to be the heartbeat or heartbeat of any business house, and this.
Okay, that's good. So we have one more question from Ganesh Darshan. The question is a little bit specific, but I make it general. He wants to know what is the culture, means company culture, work-life balance, compensation, growth, global opportunities, and brand management with the FMCG sector. What all these terminologies in FMCG sector, and what things the student will need to be in his brain before joining any company.
Okay, so I take up that question, and my co-panelists can join in. So first and foremost, it is important to note that are you actually looking for a job, or you're looking for a career? So that is the starting point, that if you're looking for a job, possibly we might keep exploring options. But if we are looking for a career, we have to be very clear with our thought process that what exactly are we looking for. So the introspection starts from self first before we opt for a company. That first, what I want to take up in terms of my career. So when I talk about an HR function, HR is an ocean. So within HR, what is the kind of expertise that you would like to step into? Will it be recruitment? Will it be talent management? Will it be your performance management? Will it be HR operations? So there are various n number of spheres and arena that is available, but we need to be very clear that what we want ourselves as part of the IIEBM family, because this is the kind of family culture that we have been able to create in the last 30 years of our service. And when we say this percolates down right from the top to the bottom, every single member of this organization, this family, is closely knitted. So we as an organization are not only connected with our employees, it is even to the family members. So the kind of reflection that you have, that apart from business, what is the kind of DNA that runs through the organization is the reflection of the company culture. So that is where for the last 3 years, IIEBM has been recognized consecutively as a great place to work by Great Place to Work Institute. This is a USA-based independent organization that certifies the organizations for the kind of culture that they run in the organization. So this is not what we feel, this is what the organizations feel. And like my co-panelist would agree here, that company culture comes and it is percolated further to the newcomers. So when we look from a distance, if we look at a company culture, we need to be also be equipped to be a part of that culture. So it cannot be that a particular culture, whether I will fit in or not, we need to be open with our thought process that I also want to be a part of this culture and I also want to get gelled around in this part of the culture. So this is one. Compensation is a very descriptive thing, and I think that comes with your experience, your competence, your caliber, your performance, and your deliverance. So this will be a very outlined discussion that possibly will be difficult for me to answer. So till the time you don't step into the water, you really don't get to know the depth of it. So it depends on the kind of role it is. It depends on the kind of organization that you are associated with. It depends on the criticality of the
to take care while we working in any organization. So any panelists would like to throw some light on this work-life balance?
So, Ms. Mishra, would you like to go ahead or should I?
Yes.
Sure. So, I would just want to answer the first question also. It is never which is the right company to join. The question is always going to be what is the right company to join for me. If you and your friend both want to apply to, for an example, to HUL, it could be right for one of you who wants to build a career in, say, marketing, and it could also be not the best choice for somebody who is, say, a much more IT bent of mind, a much more fit into a Cisco or a Google or some of the IT giants of the world. So you always have to analyze a company, look at what the Glassdoor pages say about it, go through the company profile, go through the company values and mission statement, what the company stands for, look at what the company does when it has to do with CSR. So that will give you an idea of what the company also stands for. So pick up a company which you think is going to be good for you. It may also be that a company which is globally popular, a company which is, say, the best in the industry, might not be the best for you because you come from a very entrepreneurial mindset and you would find your fit in the startup. So have a sense of work-life balance. And increasingly in the past 7 to 8 years, there has been more focus to also make your workplace much more friendly, to make it, say, a flexi work, to employ a flexi working hour, to employ sort of a work from home modality, which is mandated in the pandemic, but also otherwise to improve your workplace, how it looks like, improve certain facilities that are provided to the employees. So that is improving across the organizations. But you will also need to understand that a work-life balance will also depend on the kind of role that you're doing. A sales officer, a medical representative cannot expect a cushy desk job, cannot expect a cushy AC job because they will have to be in the field, they have to brave all sort of the weathers, and then they have to operate in the field. Similarly, somebody who's signing up for a consulting sort of an organization will have to understand that the organization revolve around a fast turnaround. So they will also expect a certain amount of work commitment from you. And such organizations are very upfront when they also roll out their offers to you. That we will expect you to work for these many hours. We will expect this sort of work commitment for you. So pick and choose according to what fits you from a work-life balance perspective. And you will also have to make time always and prioritize life work across multiple locations. And that will also come from within.
The studies will not work. And we at Vadilal that do take care very consciously. And we account every individual to own it. So they have to own that, and they are also equally responsible to set a right culture for the department as well as for the overall organization. And raise the next point that you told, the work-life balance, that also accounts employee, and it is the achievement by employees of equality between time spent working and in personal life. So they are equally responsible to contribute to maintain this work-life balance.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So I feel now Ganesh got the answers from all the three panelists and he's satisfied with the answer. Now moving towards, we have one more question from Aparna. So Aparna wanted to know, means FMCG sector is suitable for which student? Means for marketing student or for finance student or for HR student? So FMCG is one sector where which stream students are more suited, marketing, finance or HR? Yes.
It's nothing specific like that, it may be suitable for all. First, it doesn't specific that it's only specific for HR or marketing or any other function.
Like for fintech companies or for banking and finance companies, the finance sector students, finance branch students, they are more comfortable with such companies. So the question is related to this.
Because they are very specific in nature. And if you ask for the FMCG sector, we require candidates from finance as well, we require candidates from HR as well, and also we require candidates from other functions as well.
Right.
I would like to add a few points here. So I think over the last 1.5 hours, a lot of discussion has happened in terms of the career opportunity that lies for the students. I will give you an example. The executive director of ICICI Bank. So in one of the town halls in the retail banking segment, so ICICI being the strongest private player, so a lot of expansion happens in terms of the branch opening. So they were given a target to open some 100 plus branches, and in the town hall this question came that how are we going to meet out the manpower requirement. So the gentleman, I would not like to name here, but I loved his ideology and the thought process. So his point was that you give me people with 2 eyes, 2 hands and 2 legs, I will ensure that they are on the job. So this is the kind, and to get the best of the opportunity. So I think that the limitation of or the accessibility to career prosperity does not lie in limited hands as far as FMCG is concerned. So it is open access to everyone and all the fields and all the functions. So go all guns.
Okay, that's great, sir. So there is one question from my side on behalf of all the students. So during the interviews, when you have the fresh blood in the company, and that is from the management background, the students. So what are actually that question means during the pre-placement talk that when we represent our company in front of the students, during that pre-placement talk, what is actually that question which we are waiting for? The student should ask this question. So can anyone please put some light on this? What is actually that magical question that the HR used to wait that a student should ask this?
Okay, so from all the questions, the spontaneous questions that were fired at us as panelists, and possibly we were able to hide out of those questions in a respectful manner. So one question that I personally would be very interested, and so far I haven't come across any candidate who has asked me, barring the senior candidates that I have interviewed. So compensation, demography, role, these are a very general set of questions. I will be very keen to come across a candidate, a management student who comes forwards and asks me this question: how can I become a CEO of the company? So rather than we asking the candidate that what you aspire for, what keeps you going, what are your aspirations 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, I think the reverse order in terms of the professional aspiration, there should be a
and the clear way that he will cover in their professional journey, in her profile or his professional journey, and become the CEO. That's so nice. So any other panelist would like to answer this question?
So I think that's a very, very good question. I have not come across, at least I have not asked that question to any of the companies that came across in my campus. When I also go for campus evaluations, the kind of questions on compensation, question on role, this is something that a company will always advertise for when they are coming for. This is not something that the students will not know what the company is looking for. I would be happier to understand what sort of an interest the student has in the what sort of preparedness have they had for the company. And second, one question which always makes me notice the person is there is the sort of a question which you can ask help the HR or the person who is there taking your pre-placement on answer and give you a sort of a mental profile of what sort of competencies or skills that they are looking at in the student, which is good for the student themselves as well and for the larger panel as well. This question definitely does get you noticed. One question on possibly if your interest genuinely lies in that company, if you would want to know something that the company is genuinely doing, which is always a good place to start, and another on what exactly they are here to interview. So what exactly are they looking for? So that would be a good question to always ask.
Okay, that's so nice, Ms. Swati. So
taking a cue, sorry, Professor Mishra. So taking a cue from what Ms. Prasanna has shared, from the earlier question, I would also like to frame out a question that possibly the students might be very keen to ask in terms of what are the goals of the organization? What are the future goals of the organization? So when we look for a job or a career, it is about on the ground at that point in time what is being offered. So that will also fit you into the bracket of the organizational culture that we were talking about a while back.
Okay, that's really great again, because if the student will ask about the goal and the target of the company, that will show that the student is very specific about his career and about his journey. So that's nice. So do we miss any point that we have not covered during our discussion? So if you feel that we have missed any point which is useful for the student that we have not covered, so we can cover it.
So 2 points I would like to highlight here before we conclude. So 2 important aspects that I have personally observed with my experience and my interaction with a different set of people. From a management student point of view, because we all have come through that stage, so we have experienced that part of the state of confusion that is there in the back of mind, the apprehensions that we had as management students. So to help and to support these students, I would like to share that there is a concept called fear of failure. And that applies to all of us, be it you are a fresher or experienced, no matter what age you are. So that fear of failure actually holds you back from innovating and a creative thinking and to dare to act. Because we always live in an apprehension that if I ask this question, what the other person will think about me. If I act this, if I work on this project, if this fails, what is going to happen? If I have a creative idea in terms of marketing, if I present it to the marketing head, what that person, he or she will feel about me? What if I don't succeed? I personally feel, and I would request all the management students and everyone that please get out of that fear of failure thought. Because that fear of failure is going to pull you down in terms of your aspirations. So just throw away that thought. So this concept, what I call as Antar Agni. So there is a fire inside, what I was talking about, fire in the belly. So Antar Agni. So that should always help you succeed and move a step or a mile further, rather than holding on to yourself that if I do this, what is going to be the result? Go act. And that is going to come when you step into a corporate world. We have a lot of aspirations, but when you dream big, I would personally suggest everyone that act bigger. We dream big, but the actions are not aligned to those kind of dreams. So when you dream big, you need to act much bigger to ensure that your dreams come true. So it is as good as if you get an examination question paper of 100 marks. If you want to achieve 100, then you have to attempt 110. If you keep attempting 80 and 90, you can't really assume or dream of getting a 100% score on that. So the thumb rule is first to come out of that fear of failure. The second is dream, act, and dream big, but act bigger. So these are 2 important aspects that I would like to share.
So these are very motivational lines. We must say that my students are adopted. I feel absorb these lines and they will use it as well. So the closing remark from Ms. Prasanna, I feel you want to say something.
I think I would specifically want to not add to what we have missed or anything, Just one thing that I will always ask any MBA professional, and this is something all of us also who join an organization learn a bit of a hard way, is be open to any experience that comes across you. Be open to learning what the company is offering you. Be open to learning what options, experiences all come across you. And second, whether it be your summer stint or whether it be your first year or your formative years in whichever organizations that you join, please be very, very inquisitive. Ask questions, clarify doubts. Never go basis assumption that I am assuming this is what the end result is going to be. Be very, very inquisitive. Ask any sort of a question. If you don't have all your doubts, never work basis assumption.
That's very, very inspiring and motivational lines, as well as the lines you must give the clear instruction to all the students what to do during the initial phase of their career. So that's great. So now coming to Ms. Mishra, any closing lines that you would like to?
Yeah, I'll say be very, very specific. Whatever you want to achieve in your life, be very, very specific. Then only you will be able to get results. Unless until you are specific, you will not get it. You will divert it in somewhere. So be very, very specific.
And I feel the sessions like that will give the clear idea to the students about, because the student of one fellow that is actually this corner of the branch being a student, and there will be the paradigm shift in his life when he join any organization and being the professional. So that we can say the lack of experience, and he learned when he joined any organization, then only he came to know that yes, this is actually the thing that we need to do. Because here in institution, the student is coming here to learn and he is not getting the salary. But in organization, he has to prove himself, he has to work whatever the work assigned to him, and he's actually getting that compensation also for that work. So we got one question from Diksha. Let me see this. So she's asking that today people are investing heavily on safety products like sanitizer, gloves, mask. What FMG products have benefited from this? So she's asking that sanitizer, gloves and mask, which is I can say the new trend now in the market under the FMCG. So is it these products are beneficial for the FMCG sector? Are they contributing in their growth?
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Over to you, please. After you.
So I see a lot of, not just FMCG, but I see a lot of durables companies like Asian Paints, like Pidilite, all of them also getting into manufacturing sanitizers, which is just mixing and rematching a lot of formulas that they would already have. So which is called a relative divestment of the profile that they have. And I think
Because you were trying to say, yeah.
So to answer Diksha, in terms of the opportunity that is available by virtue of the time or the crisis that is there. So sanitizer is one of the examples. So if we talk about our India as one of our parent company, so it has been known for the human pharma in terms of Dabur Chyawanprash. But in terms of immunity building, so most of the companies, they came out with one or the other product to create that sense of immunity building program, be it your Tulsi drops or be it your immunity milk. So when we were a child, so our parents used to say that always drink the turmeric milk, but we used to shy away from that. But today the environment or the situation is such that now the assorted drinks are coming in that shape and form, and it is being consumed. So it is all about an opportunity, and as an industry, we should be able to anticipate, and we should be able to be conducive to adapt to those critical situations in order to survive, and also in order to excel in the competition, because you need to have that first mover advantage. That is very important. So these are a few of the products, and surely they are actually helping on building up the top line and the revenue of the company. But yes, for any organization for that matter, the core business should be the focus area. These surely help in pushing up the planning or the budgeting that any organization would have set for a 3 years, 5 years plan. but the core business.
So I must say that on behalf of the IIEBM Indus Business School, I say thank you very much to all the three panelists for being here and invested your 1.5 hour, more than 1.5 hour of time to discuss on that very important topic, that is the scope and challenges in FMCG sector for the management students. I feel we have covered the maximum areas and the questions of the students as well. While the students are also giving thanks in the chat box for being present here. So we are expecting and we are inviting you all for such a knowledgeable session in future also. Because now I feel that the pandemic is going to off and we will start the college in few days or few months. So at that time we are expecting some physical presence as well for the students from your end. That would be more beneficial for the students. Because if industry gives something to the institute, it means if industry gives their expertise to the institute will return that expertise in terms of highly talented and developed students to the industry. So it is actually the symbiotic association, we must say, where we both have the win-win situation. So with this closing remark, I say thank you to all of you. So thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy.